Nightly. I'm your host, Tom Ballard. Hope you're well. Joining us tonight for a spot of stand-up, a brilliant new comedian, Rose Piper, will be here, everybody. That'll be great. Hey, big story from the weekend. Let's talk about those by-elections. Elections. Oh, man. I'm going to miss doing that a lot. All right, what happened?
Labor's Super Saturday by-election victories may have just saved Bill Shorten his job as opposition leader. Labor secured wins in the hotly contested seats of Longman and Braddon.
What a great night for the Labor Party. Actually, what a super Saturday night it is.
Good joke, Bill. Very good. Somehow, even when winning, he manages to seem like a loser. It's incredible. Labor retained all 4 seats they were running in. Central Alliance's Rebecca Sharkey kept her seat, so nothing's really changed. Classic Australian politics. Not only did the government lose those races, worse still, the Prime Minister was caught eating a meat pie with a knife and fork. An outrage! This is not the true blue, down-to-earth, dinky-die Malcolm Turnbull that we all know and love. To be fair to him, normally his butler does it. And normally it's quail. But it is ridiculous. Oh, no, OK. Few quail heads in. It's ridiculous. We all know there are only 2 ways to eat an Aussie meat pie: with your hands or off the floor because it was too hot and you dropped it. Those are the only 2 ways. And that wasn't the only culinary crime the Liberals committed on the weekend, right? In the seat of Mayo, here's former Liberal leader Alexander Downer at the Liberal Party function, has a dip of the spring roll, all right? And then double dips! He bloody dipped again, you double-dipping bastard! An outrage! Always make sure no one's looking when you double dip. You dip, you eat, left, right, then you dip again. Plus, he did it in front of a camera. This man gives 0 fucks. I would not be surprised if he was triple dipping. That's not far off treason, if you ask me. I'll calm down. Sorry, everyone. In the seat of Fremantle in WA, the coalition didn't even stand a candidate, so Labor's Josh Wilson won easily. He was up against Liberal Democrat candidate John Gray, who apparently was campaigning hard on one very specific issue.
The Liberal Democrats have been campaigning on vaping over there, and they actually released an opinion poll this morning about vaping, so we might hear a bit more about vaping.
God, I want to hear more about vaping, mainly to hear Anthony Green use the phrase vaping. I love it. But ABC host and killjoy Greg Jennett was having none of it.
Well, Anthony Green getting dangerously close to a discussion there about vaping, which I thought we'd sorted out we were not going to do. Please do not mention Liberal Democrats in any of the Western Australian seats, nor vaping. Thanks, team.
Shut up, Janet! If Anthony Green wants to talk about vaping, you let him talk about vaping. You're not the boss of Anthony. What do you think, Labor MP Ed Husick?
If I had one criticism, it's we didn't talk about vaping enough tonight.
Exactly! Exactly. Oh, boy. I gotta quit that. All right. In the Queensland seat of Longman, Pauline Hanson made an appearance, kind of, not really at all.
Carrying One Nation's campaign on his own, Pauline Hanson's candidate says he's no pushover.
I think she's got some sea legs, but she'll be all right.
Using cardboard cutouts in place of the One Nation leader, who's ditched campaigning for a European cruise.
Yes, with Pauline away at a cruise, One Nation made do with 50 cardboard cutouts of her, creating the creepiest version of Guess Who I've ever seen. That game's even harder when she's in a burqa. But One Nation candidate Matt Stevens defended the choice, claiming that the cardboard cutouts were as good as the real thing. And yes, I must say, I, Tom Ballard, heartily agree. A cutout is just as good as a real thing, particularly if the cutout is actually just someone's face stuck on Daryl Summers' body. Hey, what do you think about Pauline Hanson's Jemay from Summer High Tie? I think we should stop all Muslim immigration. All right, that's quite enough of you. Get out of there. Oh, God. Be careful, we've got to return those. In the Tasmanian seat of Braddon, there was actually a swing to the Libs, but it wasn't enough to beat Labor on preferences. A big winner there was independent candidate Craig Garland.
But it's fisherman and independent Craig Garland who's the real toast of the town.
Better get a full one then.
Netting 11% of the vote.
He doesn't bullshit. Fishermen don't tell lies.
What? Fishermen are notorious liars. Either they lie or every fish ever caught was this big. Come on. Craig Garland won 10.6% of the vote in Braddon and was largely responsible for Labor's Justine Key winning the seat thanks to the flow of preferences from Garland's supporters. And that is pretty impressive, seeing as how in some ways Craig Garland seemed to put in as little effort as humanly possible, with his entire campaign involving just 10 signs. When he was asked about this very low number of signs, he was quoted as saying he actually had 14 signs, but he forgot to put 4 up. Where were they? Just in his house? Did he just walk into his living room every day and see them and think, oh yeah, vote for me, good stuff, back to bed? Don't worry, people, Craig is a pro. Just listen to what Frank Kelly said to him on Our Own Breakfast this week.
You are an unlikely candidate, I'd have to say. I mean, you joked recently you've only just not long had a pair of shoes.
He's got shoes, people! That is huge. I'm sure he needed them too when he was putting up those 10 signs. So Craig had shoes, check. He's lived in the community for decades, and that is his main advantage. The locals know him.
Well, a lot of them didn't even know that my name was Craig Garland. My nickname is Garbo. Most people down here know me as that. So I had people coming up to me after the state election saying, well, we didn't even know you were on the ballot.
Come on, Garbo! You can't even get a vote from your mates! And his mates were his key demographic, given half his campaign materials were in his house! Vote Garbo, who's got shoes? Hey, what do you think about Craig Garland, world-renowned violinist Andre Rieu? I think he's a great advocate for his community. I love his clogs. I'm Dutch, by the way. Thanks, mate. Fuck, I gotta quit vaping, I really do. So the question now is, what is the Turnbull government going to do now?
This morning's Super Saturday blowout. Tough questions for the Prime Minister following its big loss to Labor in the weekend by-elections.
His colleagues are reportedly urging him to scrap his corporate tax cuts, warning him it will lead to a big loss at a general election.
Oh, good luck. The coalition is not keen to drop their company tax cuts plans. Finance Minister Matthias Cormann even said that if the tax cuts fail to pass the Senate, they will take them to the next election. Now, I believe we actually have exclusive footage of the Turnbull government sticking with the company tax plan. There they go, sticking with that legislative agenda. Keep going, son. And there we go. Well, that's a shame. There's some other news now involving prison sex.
Revelations of sex between inmates and guards in the state's prisons are to be investigated by a special task force.
A number of affairs between guards and inmates have come to light after allegations emerged that prison guard Amy Connors and cop killer Sione Penasini were caught out having sex at Kempsey Jail.
Now, former Police Assistant Commissioner Mark Murdoch will turn his skills to the sordid liaisons between prisoners and those charged with guarding them and just how rife they are.
Oh, sex in prison is rife. Trust me, I've seen Wentworth and Oz and Orange is the New Black, and they are rife and all night long. Apparently, encounters between prison staff and inmates is commonplace, according to one whistleblower. By the way, in prison sex terms, a whistleblower is a police warden who goes down on you. I am not ashamed! I gotta say, the coverage of this stuff from the media has been quite steamy, if you don't mind. There's talk of prison love and hotbeds of sex. There are details on guards having raunchy sex sessions with murderers. There are even lurid pictures of both the prison guards in question and buff inmates. Oh! Wouldn't mind Shawshanking his redemption. Sorry, OK. I'm being told that man is on parole. I take that back. I have nothing but respect for that lovely gentleman. All this prison sex is so steamy and sexy. I bloody love it.
I'm a really good catch. Just keep getting caught.
My ideal man is someone who'll be dedicated to me for 25 years to life.
Before the task force shuts down relationships between prisoners and guards in New South Wales prisons, be detained for 1 hour a week by the hot new series Love Prison.
A lot of people call me a lady killer because I kill ladies, literally, and some cops.
I'm after a man who knows what he wants, and that's the closest available woman.
A lot of men are intimidated by me because if they get out of line, I just tase them.
You can tell from the first kiss she's the right woman to hide contraband in my beard.
My fantasy man is creative, he's good with his hands, and he can make a shiv out of anything.
Does this blur the boundaries of consent? Don't think about it. Just watch the hot people.
They've got no other options.
I do a lot of push-ups. It's basically all I can do in my cell.
I'm only doing this because they promised me a packet of cigs.
I like a man who's sophisticated.
I make wine in the toilet.
Direct from our broken prison system.
I'm not doing time. I'm doing the time of my life.
Love Prison Australia starts Sunday, unless the task force does its job.
Enjoyed that sketch. How about you, former President Barack Obama?
Actually, Tom, I thought it was shit.
Oh, get out of here. That's not very nice. Bloody Muslim. All right. Nailed it. Hey, here's something to look forward to. This Wednesday, we human beings are going to hit Earth Overshoot Day. That's the day when we've officially used the amount of resources the Earth can renew in a year. And this year we did it by August the 1st, the earliest date ever recorded. How about that, everybody? We bloody did it. I've certainly done my bit. I don't want to brag, but I exclusively use full flush. You're welcome. To celebrate our inevitable doom and our lead up to Overshoot Day, we thought it was time to revisit our depressing nature documentary series, Fucked Planet. Our first episode is about how everything's on fire. Enjoy.
The humble hedgehog. Protected by its spiny exterior, it emerges from hibernation to forage for food on the forest floor. And, thanks to rising temperatures, immediately goes on fire. With 118 all-time heat records broken in recent months, the once lush forests of Sweden, Finland and Norway have been replaced with boring hot fire. Meaning this herd of moose are going to have to adapt to breathing smoke and subsisting on a diet consisting mostly of ash. Unfortunately, this young moose calf has failed to develop asbestos skin and succumbs to being on fire and won't make it through the season because he's on fire. It remains unclear as to how this new paradigm of climate change will affect the flora and fauna of the Northern Hemisphere. Will they adapt to this new climate reality? No, they'll just go on fire. Even him. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, God. There's nothing we enjoy more than themed weeks. Already this season, we've marked Refugee Week and NAIDOC Week. Next week is Homeless Prevention Week, and we'll be bringing you some hot content around that. But there is another group of people in our society that live a marginalised and precarious existence. I'm talking, of course, about baby boomers. Those folks born roughly between 1945 and 1965 who are still hanging around like a John Farnham farewell tour. Don't worry, I know there's none in the audience tonight. Whether we like it or not, boomers play a huge role in the society that we live in. And if you're a millennial, chances are a boomer owns the house that you still live in. These people are ignored and underserviced today, particularly by the ABC, which barely makes any content for boomers. They're always appealing to the hip and funky young people shows, with radical shows like Gardening Australia, Think Tank, and of course the smash hit Antique Murders, a series which exclusively profiles famous murders in the English countryside involving valuable antiques, hosted by Geraldine Doogue. Well, I've had enough. I say these people deserve more, because there's nothing more baby boomer than wanting more. And therefore, I hereby declare this week of Tonightly to be Boomer Week! Throughout the week, we'll be learning about this wonderful generation. For example, here's a fact. When boomers die, they get buried in a coffin and then also have an investment coffin buried at the same time, so they may negatively gear in death. It's a beautiful system. Baby boomers love owning houses, and it's been quite easy for them to do that. For new homeowners, though, not so much.
Macquarie Bank has joined a raft of other financial institutions in signalling that it's going to lift its mortgage rates very soon. It says higher variable rates will come into effect on the 13th of July for new customers and 10 days later for existing customers.
Oh my gosh, this would be terrible news for me if I had a home loan. Fortunately, I've recently done the maths and figured out the only way I can enter the property market is if my parents exit life. Love you, bye. But it does seem like new homeowners might be in a bit of trouble. A new study by Digital Finance Analytics found that almost a third of home loan customers are in financial trouble. In fact, up to 1 million households are set to go into mortgage default by September if these predictions are correct. And we already know property prices in Australia are massively inflated. Over the past 25 years, the median house value nationally has risen by 412%. 412%. That includes data from places like Snowtown. And if you think things are bad now, the future for young'uns like you and me looks bleak. Research from CoreLogic predicts that if current trends continue, by 2043, Brisbane's median house price could hit $2.24 million, while the average home in Perth could cost $2.48 million. Perth! You might see this as depressing, but here at the ABC, we see it as an opportunity. ABC TV is set to launch a brand new and more realistic series about the Australian property market, and I've got to say, it looks pretty good.
Clean, friendly, affordable. None of these words are used to describe Sydney, this heinous affront to Western civilization. It's such a ridiculously expensive city, even the homeless only accept Bitcoin. To try to build a home in this lavish shrine to gluttony is to willfully impoverish yourself for the rest of your measly, peasant-like existence. But that doesn't deter thousands of painfully optimistic morons from trying to build new homes. Not great homes, not even slightly good homes. This is Average Designs. So, Wyatt, Nina, how's your journey towards your dream home going?
Well, we've both been saving from our full-time jobs for about 10 years now.
Yeah, no overseas trips, no takeaway coffees, no smashed avocado.
No laundry.
We've been living with Wyatt's mum for about 5 years now.
Despite the cramped conditions, Wyatt's mother remains very accommodating.
All their hard work has finally paid off, and they've secured a block of land. Wyatt and Nina show me around their little slice of heaven.
It's the perfect spot. It's only close to like 2 freeways and 1 rubbish tip.
So we don't mind the noise really because it helps drown out the flight path and overhead.
Yep, okay, so talk me through what you're doing here. So you're knocking down this old building here and you're rebuilding from scratch?
Oh, no, it's actually, that's the property owner's house. They sold this to us. This is our land here.
You've just bought their garden.
Oh, we couldn't afford all of that. We bought a subdivision.
Yeah, so how big's that?
A bit under.
As Wyatt and Nina walk me through their pitifully small and horrifically expensive plot of land, they talk me through their vision.
Yeah, just to keep it to what we can afford, we've had to cut down on a few things and just really focus on the essentials.
So what are we talking here? What's
Study room, rumpus room, bedroom, bathroom. They're all gone.
Kitchen.
Yeah, kitchen too.
It's gone.
What's left?
We've got 1 room. We call it the room.
What Wyatt and Nina are showing with their room is that simply by removing all the elements of a house from a house, you can afford a house.
It's the day before the build, and I've come in to check on how their last-minute plans are shaping up.
So just due to budget, we're going with a prefabricated structure.
Ah, prefabricated? Okay, that's very cutting edge these days.
It's cardboard.
It's So, day 1, talk me through it all. How's it going?
Well, we're hoping to have the whole house finished today.
In 1 day?
Just come off site, so...
You mean over there?
Yeah, it's going well. I think we'll have the whole thing assembled today.
Who is project managing this whole situation?
Well, look, I'm a corporate lawyer specialising in insolvency, and I have no project management experience. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Immediately, things are not fine. Due to Wyatt's total lack of expertise, somehow this 1-day build has instantly fallen behind. 6 months in, I checked back in on Nina and Wyatt.
Wyatt's mother sold the house that they were also living in, meaning they've had to now move out into the home that they're building while it's still under construction, so we're just going to check in on them now and see how it's going. Morning, troopers.
Offer you a coffee pod?
Coffee? Yes, please.
Well, we don't have any power.
Or a machine, though.
Well, then I'm all right for the pod, thanks. So how's it going?
You know, it's not ideal. Like, we're having to compromise a lot, but, you know, this is what you got to do if you want to achieve your dream of living in a tiny house in half a garden.
With money fast running out and living in a house that's more theory than building, there is no way that these two will ever finish their dream. 2 years on, and today's the day Nina and Wyatt finally unveil their new home. That's all right. Thanks. Good to see you. Long time. So, what's going on here? Let's have a look.
Well, against all odds, we finally built the house.
The vinyl render cunningly disguises this as a children's house, making it unappealing to thieves. There's no glass in the windows, so the ventilation is free. Grass is allowed to come up through the floor, providing natural carpet.
And we have an investment property.
They've created an investment property by placing a sleeping bag on some nearby grass. It's a cunning combination of vision and then giving up that vision.
And the extra income really helps us pay off our mortgage.
Sorry, extra income, what, the sleeping bag's tenanted?
Oh, yeah, this is Chris. She's a surgeon.
This is all I can afford.
The good news is that in the short time since I closed that gate, White and Nina's property has once again septupled in value and is now worth $1.5 million. I think you'll agree, for a room, that's an absolute steal in this fucked market.
Our stand-up guest tonight is a rising star in the Australian comedy scene and host of We'll Just Tell Your Mother We Ate It All, a podcast entirely dedicated to teen sex comedies. She's making her TV debut with us tonight. Please welcome the very funny Rose Piper.
Yeah, g'day. Just to answer any questions that you might have about sort of why I look like this and sound like your dad. I recently came out as transgender. Yeah, look, fair enough, a lot of people are doing it, I'm not special. But you're probably right not to applaud, to be honest, because me sort of coming out as trans didn't really have anything to do with any sort of ongoing battle with gender dysphoria. I just saw how bad of a name men were getting in the press at the moment. Decided to do the most manly thing I could think of, which was to jump ship like a coward. God, you taught me well, Dad. When it gets hard, get the fuck out of there. But I actually am sincerely trans, so anything that you don't laugh at from this point will be considered a transphobic attack. So, yeah, test number one, motherfuckers. It is weird growing up as trans. I think it can be difficult to sort of come to terms with gender dysphoria. I remember I was sitting there one day with a bunch of male friends, and one of them made that joke that a lot of guys will make when they're young. It's like, oh, I just think I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body. And they all laughed, and I just sat there silently, realising no one had ever summed up my experience with such brevity and clarity before. It's like, oh, that's it. Because it can be hard to articulate. I think particularly because, like, I really worry that I'm dumb. Like, I don't know if you ever, like, have you ever had to Google a question so dumb you go on incognito mode? Like, just to lower the chances of being traced back to you, you know? Like, what if I was looking for a job? Like, I don't know that they have some sort of database there. They're like, well, we were thinking about hiring her, but turns out 2 days ago she Googled mouldy bread bad with 4 question marks. We can't have that on staff. It's no good. But I don't know. I'm trying to be less negative. Which is a bad start, because I probably should have said more positive. Onwards and upwards. You know, because I think, like, you know, it's cool. It's cool to be here on TV, like on the ABC, the home of my favourite show, Gardening Australia. Hell yeah. Yeah, the only time anyone's ever applauded for that. Fantastic. I love that show. I love that show so much that when Peter Cundall died, my friend called me and asked if I was sitting down. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think the thing is, like, I genuinely love that show too. I hate that ironic enjoyment of things where people are like, oh, I just hate watch The Bachelor. Just admit that you love it, you fucking gutless coward. know, you can't just keep dipping your toe in when it like suits you because you're too afraid to wallow down here with the rest of us pond scum. You know, jump in, the water's nice. We've got Limp Bizkit and Fitzy and Whipper. It's bloody good. It's bloody good. But I think the thing about that show, like, I don't love gardening, and watching that show hasn't made me love gardening. I just love watching how much these people fucking love gardening. Like, there is no greater joy in life than seeing a man who must be at least 65 standing on top of a boulder and playing air guitar because he's about to show you a rock garden. He's just like, Australia, are you ready to rock? I'm like, you fucking bet I am, buddy. Let's get sedimentary up in this motherfucker. Because I think in this like modern political climate where we're always offending each other all the time, like gardening Australia is kind of just a tonic because it's just so delightfully saccharine. You know, like the kind of conversations they have on this show are like, so mate, how do you get such wonderful colour in your garden? It's like, well, if you just go down the nursery once a month and buy planting flower, then you'll have flowering in your garden all year round. Yeah. And instead of the one guy looking at the other guy and being like, man, that's the most boring thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. He's genuinely taken aback, like, oh, that is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Like, all this guy has said to him is like, you know, consistent placement of colour in your garden means it will remain that way. This guy's damn near lost his breath. Like, if that doesn't warm your heart, you need to check it into NASA for their research into black holes. It's beautiful. Because like, these people get so caught up in their little world of gardening that they like lose touch with reality. There was one woman on there, she said, you know, people often ask me, what's the best way to grow an attractive climber over a trellis or a fence that is in a sunny spot and is also drought resistant? I was like, really? People often ask you that insanely specific question? She's like, oh yes, and people also often ask me if they can use the prunings from a Castlewell and Gold conifer hedge to use as mulch in their compost, and when it breaks down, is it acidic or alkaline? I'm like, whoa, wow, okay, what are you not being asked often? To come to their birthday party. Hey, I've been Rose Piper.
Rose Piper! Sam Simmons! That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.
Classism.